Hey guys, our last lesson is actually pretty short. We are solving rational equations. So we're going to look at two different methods to do that. So the first method is the clearing fractions method. We're going to multiply by the least common denominator. So remember we had to find out what was missing to get to what denominator we needed to make them all the same. Same process here. So if you look, I have an x and I have a 2. So to make them all the same would be 2x. So I'm going to multiply this entire thing by 2x. And as long as I do the same thing on the left and the right hand side, that's okay. We haven't changed the problem. So if I multiply each of these pieces by 2x, here's what happens. In this one, the x's cancel. So then I have 3 times 2 is 6. In this one, the 2's cancel. So I have my minus sign, but I have x. In this one, the x's cancel, so I have 24. That's a way nicer problem to look at than the one that we just had, because now I can just subtract 6. I get the opposite of x equals 18, divide by -1. So for this, I get x equals -18. That's my answer. You always want to double check when you're dealing with fractions like this that you can put that -18 back into the denominator. And in this case, that would be fine. It wouldn't give us a divide by 0 issue. So that one's okay. All right, to get rid of the denominator in this next one, it looks like we just have x plus 1. So I'm going to take the whole thing and multiply everything by x plus 1. Well, when I do that to the first one, the x plus 1's just cancel out. So I'm left with just 5x equals. Now when I multiply by the 4, there's nothing to cancel, so I am multiplying by x plus 1. Then I have a minus 5, and those x plus 1's cancel, so nothing else there. So then I'm going to go ahead and multiply out that x plus 1. So 4x plus 4 minus 5. So I get 5x equals 4x minus 1. Subtract 4x from both sides. So x equals -1. Now, always go back and check, can -1 go in there? And it looks like if I plug -1 into the denominator, I would be dividing by 0, which I can't do, so this one is no solution. Okay, on this last one, I'm erasing a little bit because I made a mistake here, so I'm going to go back and fix this. So on this last one, we need to look at the denominator that we need. So this is a difference of squares, so I get an x plus 2 and an x minus 2. So it looks like that's going to be our LCD, and that's going to be what we multiply everything by. So if I multiply this first one by x plus 2, x minus 2, those x minus 2's will cancel out. So then I just need to multiply by x plus 2. On the next one, the 6 doesn't actually get multiplied by anything because the x plus 2, x minus 2 will cancel that denominator out. And on this last one, I'm going to have 1 times that whole thing. X plus 2, x minus 2 is really x squared minus 4. And I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm going to go ahead and put it back together because I'm multiplying everything back together at this point anyway so that I can simplify. So I have 3x times x is 3x squared. And then I have outside is 6x. And I have minus 2x. And I have minus 4. Over here I have x squared plus 2 if I simplify that 6 minus 4. So then I have 3x squared plus 4x minus 4 is equal to x squared plus 2. I'm going to go ahead and move everything to the left-hand side. So I get 2x squared. I'm going to subtract 2 here. So I have plus 4x, and I have minus 6 is equal to 0. All right, at this point, I see that I can take a 2 out of here, and that'll make things a little easier. So I need two numbers that multiply to negative 3 that add to positive 2. Notice I just left that 2 out front. The two numbers that multiply to negative 3 and add to positive 2 would be positive 3 and negative 1. So that means I get x equals negative 3, and I get x equals 1. Remember, we talked about always going back and checking those values. So negative 3 would work, and 1 would work as well. So both of these are okay answers. All right, so let's look at our next method. Cross multiplying. We can only use this when each side is a single fraction. So if it looks like this, we're going to use cross multiplying, which you should have learned about in Algebra 1. I think you even learned about it in pre-algebra. It's the butterfly method. It's where we multiply the top of the left, bottom of the right, bottom of the left, top of the right. So when we cross multiply, I have 3 times x plus 4 equals 1 times x squared plus 4x. And since I'm multiplying by 1, I know that I really don't have to do that. So I get 3x plus 12 is equal to x squared plus 4x. I like to keep the x squared positive, so I'm going to move everything over to the right. So I have x squared plus x minus 12 is equal to 0. So I need two numbers that multiply to negative 12 and add to positive 1. Well, 3 and 4, so I know I want a positive 4 and a negative 3. So x equals negative 4, x equals 3. And I want to double check, do both of these work? So I immediately see that negative 4 is not going to work because it will make my denominator 0, but if I plug in 3, it works just fine. All right, guys, that's all I have. If you have questions, come in and see me. Otherwise, I will see you in class.